Today I'm going to teach you how to get so good at drum fills that it feels illegal. Now, most drummers think their fills suck because they don't know enough of them, but that's actually not the problem. The real problem is that there are 5 fill destroyers that are killing most drummers' creativity. And the real key is to remove all of these fill destroyers so that you can flow effortlessly around the kit. This system is simple, but it works. So let's dive in. Now, it may seem silly, but the first thing that's destroying your drum fills is accent paralysis. Now, what does that mean? Well, typically drummers learn how to accent the first note of a phrase like this. Now that pattern sounds cool, but the problem is most drummers never take accents beyond accenting the first note. And so what happens is no matter how many different patterns you learn, if all of the accents are always on the first note, all your drum fills just kind of sound the same. Accents are incredibly underrated because what it allows you to do is take a single pattern and just put accents in different places, and you're able to get so much more use out of the same pattern. For example, when we scramble the accent pattern on the simplest sticking pattern in the world, the single stroke roll, you start to come up with some really cool fills like this. Now, trust me, if you can overcome accent paralysis, even just on a single stroke roll, your fill creativity will increase by a lot. So now let me teach you an exercise to help you overcome accent paralysis. Now, the key here is to get comfortable playing an accent on every note of a 16th note. So that would be on the downbeat, on the E, on the and the Now, most teachers like to teach a very long 4-measure exercise to get you familiar with this, but I like to cut it down into 1/4 of the time with this really cool pattern that gets you used to playing every single one of those accent patterns, but it can also be used as a really cool fill. It sounds like this. Don't worry about writing any of this down because I've got the full playable notation for every exercise in this video totally for free in the link in the description below. But now let's talk about the second fill destroyer, the flow stopper. Now, this is the difference between feeling incredibly rigid like the Tin Man on the kit or loose and free flowing like the Scarecrow. But the good news is you do not need to be a wizard to fix this problem. Now, a huge problem is that way too many drummers are trying to memorize note for note drum fills around the kit. And what you think you're doing is building this amazing library of fills that will just start to come out naturally. But what actually happens is it overloads your brain because every time you go to play a drum fill, you're trying to make sure you hit every single note perfectly, and then if you miss one note, it totally throws you off and the whole fill falls apart. Now, the way to overcome this is by learning just a simple sticking pattern that you are able to play around the kit in a multitude of different ways. Let me teach you how to do it. So first, let's learn the pattern right, left, left, kick, right, left. Now I'm going to teach you the easiest 3-step flow framework. Step 1 is to play the pattern, but just move your dominant hand around the kit. Now, sometimes this can start to overflow your brain a little bit. So you can start small. You can start off by just moving your dominant hand to one drum. And once that starts to feel comfortable, then you can really start to move it around the kit. And that alone will start to change how this pattern sounds big time. Let's try it out. Now, step 2 is you move your dominant hand back to the snare drum and you just move your weak hand around the kit. Now, once you are comfortable with those 2 steps, guess what? We are able to move both of our hands around the kit as you please, and this is where the drum flow really starts to begin. And remember, just focus on 1 step at a time. Do not move to step 2 until you've mastered step 1. It's a process, but each step in the process massively up-levels your fills. Now, I've seen thousands of my Academy students unlock insane fills with just this step alone. But when they combine it with the next step, that is when they start to become unstoppable. And just wait until we get to point number 5. I'm talking God tier fills. The third fill destroyer is called stock fill syndrome. Because the problem is, if you just stop at learning accents and being able to move patterns around the kit, but you're playing the same patterns over and over again, your fills start to sound a bit stock. Like a double cheeseburger at McDonald's is good the first few times, but it starts to get pretty boring pretty quickly. And it's not until you take a McChicken and put it inside of the double cheeseburger that you start to get something really exciting. And the same is true for your fills. Ideally, what you want is a very deep understanding of 5 to 10 patterns. And you want to know them so well that you can interchange them and play them back to back in seemingly random orders. Now, yes, this does take some time to develop, but learning 5 to 10 patterns is a lot easier than learning hundreds and hundreds of note for note drum fills. For example, let's just take the sticking patterns that we've learned in this video so far and start to combine them in different ways. Starting with the 6th note pattern, right, left, kick, right, left. What we can actually do with this is actually separate these so they're almost 2 different patterns. We've got right, left, kick, and then a different pattern of just right, left. And then we can throw in the single stroke roll. So right there, we kind of have 3 different patterns we can use, then 4 if you want to use the full 6 note pattern, and we can start to interchange these around the kit and get really interesting, unique sounding fills. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Now, if you want to take this to the next level and learn some of my absolute favorite sticking patterns, well, I've included those along with the play along notation for every fill in this video, totally for free in the link in the description below. So the next fill destroyer that you have to overcome is called the flat foot. Now, if you've been able to overcome these fill destroyers up to this point, well, then your fills are probably looking as beefy as an insane bodybuilder. But there's one problem. Imagine that you are a bodybuilder who's worked out everything except for one of their legs. So what you have is some parts to the body that are very big and strong, but others that were neglected and very weak. And the same is true for your fills. So what is the solution here? Well, it's to get comfortable with kick replacement inside of your fills. Because now that you know a few patterns at a deep level with accents and being able to play them around the kit in different way and combining patterns, you can take these patterns to the next level by replacing just certain notes with kicks. And it all of a sudden brings a whole new life to the pattern. So here are 2 simple ways that you can start adding in kick replacement notes to take these patterns to the next level. So for this example, we will use the sticking pattern of right, left, left, left. Now this is a rudiment known as a paradiddle diddle. And step 1 is we are simply going to choose 1 or 2 notes to replace with a kick. Now, I think the easiest way to get started with kick replacement is just by replacing the final notes of the pattern. So in this case, let's just replace that left with 2 kicks. That would sound like this. Now, the second thing you can do is actually kick addition. So you can take patterns that you already know and add 1 or 2 kicks to the end of the pattern, which is actually the easiest way to learn new patterns because it's really just the same pattern with a kick at the end. So in this case, let's play the full paradiddle diddle, but add 2 kicks at the end. That sounds like this. And the beautiful thing about this is even though it's one pattern, it allows you to play it in 3 different ways immediately. You can play just the pure paradiddle diddle, then you can do the kick replacement version, then you can go into the kick addition version, and you've got a flurry of notes that sounds like you're doing a lot of crazy different stuff, but it's all centered around one pattern. All right, guys, it's time for the ultimate boss battle. The final fill destroyer is called the timing trap. You see, what happens is when we learn fills or we learn sticking patterns, we get so used to playing it in the same subdivision over and over again. And with the help of overcoming the 4 fill destroyers that we just did, thankfully we can pull a lot of creativity out of these single subdivision patterns. However, if you want to take these patterns to the ultimate god tier level of creativity so that you can flow around the kit endlessly, it's to learn a single pattern and be able to play it in multiple subdivisions. This can be very difficult because typically what we're used to is groups of 4 played as 16th notes, or groups of 6 played as 16th note triplets, or groups of 3 played as 8th note triplets. This is all great, but it can keep your creativity in a box, because once you are able to play groups of 4 as 16th note triplets or groups of 6 as 16th notes, that is where you can start to come up with some really, really creative fills. Now, I think the ultimate gateway pattern for this is by playing a paradiddle, which is right, left, right, right, left, right, left, left. And first, playing it as 16th notes, which is very standard. But then we can take this pattern of 4 and play it as 8th note triplets. And then if you want to take it to the final level, you can take this pattern of 4 and play it as 16th note triplets. Now, in order to take your creativity to the next level, you want to be able to learn those key 5 to 10 patterns. And that's why I included my 9 favorite patterns in this video right here. Click it to check it out.